Hello, this is Michael Capps, and I don't know if it's going to show up in the video or not, but it's kind of strobing on Joan's picture. That's Joan before the neck operation. Anyway, I have to present evidence, and like I said, this is the only way I can do it, is put it on YouTube, then burn it onto a DVD disc, and I got to do it soon. So this is Joan's will, codicil to the will. Of course, the daughters are lying now. You can judge for yourself. Pennie Bowen, she made a deathbed oath to her mother to, that the family wouldn't bully me, and she described a miracle after she told her mother this, that Joan sat up and opened her eyes and had a look of absolute peace. I guess Joan believed him, but of course Pennie made a liar out of herself and has broken her oath to her mother on her deathbed and just shown what kind of person she was. It's Pennie Bowen in grief on April 2nd versus Pennie Bowen in greed. And of course it's Windie Bagby and Debora Robuck too. That's why Joan just left him what she left him. I mean, she actually, although it's not a scoring thing, she left Kevin more because she left Kevin that big pot, and it's not here. Pennie Bowen and her attorney, Stuart Sloan, who, like I said, after he hears the call of Pennie on April 2nd, I think he's heard it. He wouldn't admit one way or another. He didn't deny that he set Ricky Salmason and Lana Salmason on me from his parking lot. They stalked me and tried to wreck me and almost caused anyway, whatever. Not going to get into Stuart Sloan right now, but him and Pennie Bowen came up here yesterday, and if there was a 30-gallon cook pot here, they would have seen it, and he probably would have made some remark like, who do you cook in that? He said something about dead bodies. I had some clothes stored in the storage room and said, are there any dead bodies in here? I guess some people's minds work just differently. And they've asked about, well, anyway, yeah, she left Kevin the pots, and I told Kevin that the pots weren't here. What the one pot was, he said, don't worry about that one. And the other one that me and Joan think Woody got it, the 30-gallon one, because I haven't seen a 30-gallon pot. That would be a big pot. And anyway, and they've even asked about, I know my channel here is called Fate Bender. That's a nickname a friend of mine gave me. And asked about fate bending, which to me, well, basically it's quantum physics, which I can't explain it, what quantum physics is per se. I know some of it. I think a third grader probably knows a lot more about it than I do. But I guess it boils down to fate bending from what I mean by that, and what my friend who nicknamed me that took was you do good deeds and you get good back. You do good things and it comes back like in a circle. It's where you bend fate. Like, well, I helped Joan a great deal. I mean, she was basically, I was her housekeeper, well, our housekeeper, cook, driver. She didn't have to do anything. I didn't mind doing it for her. I loved her. I loved our life together. It was beautiful. I mean, in the video, when it starts, I say, you please me and make me happy. Because, to put it, it sounds kind of weird just coming out. We didn't think anybody would see this video, but Stuart Sloan has requested all video evidence of the will. The song Older Women Make Beautiful Lovers, and she was only like 8 years older than me, but one of the songs is Older Women Know How to Please Their Man, and after that I heard myself saying, you please me and make me happy. That wasn't part of the will. I just wanted to get that straightened out so that you wouldn't think I was just saying that weirdly. But fate bending is where you do good And good comes back to you. You do a good deed for someone, it makes them feel good. They do a good deed for someone, etc., etc. And it's like because from one thing I do understand about quantum physics is that everything's made up of atoms and particles, and those particles are affected by, observation, human observation. It sounds weird, and I don't understand it, and I don't think scientists really understand it. But, and there's power in doing good for people. And, I love doing good for Joan. That was easy. I'm talking about I've, started programs for absolute strangers to do good. I haven't, had great success in changing the world, but I tried. But that's what fate bending is. And that's, my channel name is Fate Bender. And it means basically to do good to other people. And I guess he wanted 3 examples. I don't have examples because it's not a tangible power. It's not really a power per se as it is a reaction. But it's like with, now these videos of the will, I never thought I would have to, use them. I told Kevin about the pods, when we were still on speaking terms, which last time he called, I spoke to him, of course. I'm not a mean person. I'm a good person. But I never thought they would be public. But, I'd put them on a flash drive and saved them. And like the phone calls, like the Pennie phone call and stuff, and the phone calls of Joan speaking to her sisters, talking about how awful her daughters were and how, they had regret it one day. And Rose it was kind of sad. Rose said, well, my daughter don't use me. She don't ask me for nothing, but she don't really have anything to do with me. And that was kind of sad. I hope that they patch it up before it's too late. But I've never met Rose, and Joan wasn't crazy about her sister, but, it was her. She's a human being. I hate to see people in pain that I don't know who deserves what. I know the daughters are lying that Joan was mentally disabled. Pennie said in the April 2nd phone call, Mama's strong-willed and her choices were her choices. Talking about, me and, not going to the doctor when I asked her to that last time. I was on her for about 3 days to go. Finally, she said, call 911. Anyway, I guess that's fate bending. I had to, when I closed out Joan's account, I turned her phone in August of last year, 2019, to Verizon, or I'd had to pay for it, which it was a lot of money. And so I just downloaded some calls to a flash drive that she had made, so I would have something to listen to in the future, to hear her voice. And I guess fate bending would be some of those calls just prove her daughter's liars, prove her daughter's fraudulent, and that they're conspiring to defraud the estate, which they have done. They've conspired with Catrice Moore. She talks about our case. You're just helping our case by talking to crickets and chipmunks and stuff. I talk to any living being. I don't, I don't expect them to talk back or understand me, but that's how you communicate. But anyway, that's fate bending, I guess. Just doing good deeds for people. Doing good. And, it comes back to you. And I guess Joan, looking down at the disgrace of her daughters, breaking a deathbed oath to their own mother. Who? That would be sacred to me. The deathbed oath that Pennie gave to her mother that she was telling me about that caused a miracle to happen. She said she was waiting on that, and she let go after, basically she promised that the family wouldn't bully me anymore. And she said that Joan wanted me to have my home here, our home. It was our home at the time. But Joan wanted me to stay here, and no one was going to ask me to leave. And that was Pennie in grief. She was being honest. Now Pennie's in greed. Her story has changed. Now her mom was mentally incompetent, which she wasn't. Joan never was mentally ill or mentally disabled. That's what they're saying. She was mentally disabled. So it went from, Mama's strong-willed and her choices are her choices, and I want to honor her choices, to, the lies they're telling now. And, like Joan said, they'll regret it one day, and maybe if things keep going forward, I'm going to have to, they're going to have to be, they know they're being fraudulent, and they know that it's very, very provable that they're fraudulent. And anyway, whatever. But that's basically what it is. I think fate bending was me downloading some of these before I, turned Joan's phone in, before I got all the data off of it and turned her phone in, downloading these phone calls and having them available, now that I need them. Was Joan saying, not saying, and I didn't, self-consciously say, Pennie's going to sue, so save these calls. It was just something I did on a little flash drive. And so I have them, and, all this stuff. And, of course, this... And also the dash cam videos of us talking about the murder plot, where Joan said, talking about the daughters moving against me. I said, we'll see what their next move is. And then Joan says, and a jury will take this into consideration, I've done told them they better not have any more moves. And of course, this is another move of theirs, another criminal move, because fraud is a crime. And then breaking your deathbed over to your mother, that's sacrilegious. That would be sacred. A deathbed oath to any person, let alone your mother, would be sacred to a person like me, because I take that seriously. And there is a power in the universe, whether you believe in God or not. There's a power, and it will. Pennie and Debbie and Windie, Pennie Bowen, Debora Robuck, Windie Bagby will all answer for what they've done to a power beyond the court. They may answer to the court too, but I hope they just come to their senses and drop this, and we'll see what happens. But who knows? But this is Joan's will. Like I said, this is the one she came up with. I forgot my exact words in it that she came up with. And yes, I feel like my family had done evil. And so, yeah, I'm estranged from my family. You can make whatever you want out of it, but it was nothing I did that was in any way bad. I've never been a bad person. I've never done anything that was bad towards someone. I've been an asshole sometimes. I stand up for my rights. I'm all for justice. I treat everyone as justly and as fair as I know how. And that's just the bottom line. I've always been a good person. And so, and I believe that, doing good gets good. So if you wanted examples of fate bending, God, saving these calls that I put up here. Call the Rose, the call from Pennie, etc., etc. Before, I turned Joan's phone in, but if they had been on another phone, eventually a phone gets full and you delete stuff. But yeah, I think Joan was on my shoulder that day. She knew what her daughters were. That's why she didn't, she left her stepson a little bit more, and she wanted her stepson to be a part of, owning after I'm deceased, which is kind of dangerous now since they tried to murder their mother, and they're so evil they would break a deathbed oath to their mother over greed. And it's not even greed over a lot. They were asking about an insurance policy, and yeah, that did fly over me the wrong way. When Pennie had her call, of course, I went into the bank the next day to see if there was a burial. Yeah, she was worried about that insurance policy for sure. And, kind of understandable. I suppose, just a few hours after your mother died, maybe give it a couple of days, but whatever. I went in to look in the safety deposit box. I needed to go out and get some food anyway. And it wasn't in there, but when I walked in, they said, I'm sorry to hear about your wife. And I asked them how they knew, and they said that the daughters had been calling about, accounts and the safety deposit box. I mean, worried about your mother's money in the bank a few hours after she died just seemed very sleazy to me. And that just flew over me the wrong way. And there was I forgot what else had happened. But anyway, there was no burial insurance that I know of. Now, I'm going to parse my words there. There's no insurance policy of any kind that I know of. Of course, Joan was looking into getting one when she passed away, but as far as I know, there is no insurance policies out there on Joan or burial or anything. So the daughters are being very, very greedy because they think, I learned yesterday that Mr. Sloan thought there was. I think of course he's got dollar signs in his eyes. He knows he's presenting a fraudulent case. And if he doesn't know, after he hears the April 2nd phone call of Pennie Bowen to me, he will know. Because it's like I said, Pennie Bowen in grief a few hours after her mother's died. Are you going to believe her? Or Pennie Bowen a few months after her mother died in greed, making up that her mother was, mentally ill, mentally disabled, and under undue influence. And of course, the will here will prove how. Oh gosh, I've talked for 16 minutes. I could never be a criminal because I would talk and talk. But I've always been a good person, so I'd have to speed sometimes to get Joan to her appointments in time, but I never really, went, more than well, anyway. I never sped. I did too, a little bit. But I would never be a good criminal because I talk too much. But I never, I don't do things, and I treat people right. And I think because I am a good person and I treated Joan good, I'm not going to say what she's going to do to her daughters from up in heaven. But I do think that I will have justice here on earth one way or another. Through the court system. Either they're going to, say, hey, hopefully Mr. Sloan will withdraw. Because he'll know it's fraud. But I think he's in too deep, and I think that he knows that they can testify against him and put him away for conspiracy and all this stuff, because they have threatened, they're attempting to defraud, and it is fraud, presenting lies as facts in order to profit, and it's fraud. Joan was never mentally disabled. After her spinal surgery, she was physically disabled, but never in her mind. Anyway, that's 18 minutes and 18 seconds. So, but we'll see what happens. But here is the video to Will, and I'm sorry the pot wasn't here, Kevin. I don't think she loved Kevin more than I don't even know if she loved Kevin. She liked Kevin, I guess. She felt bad about leaving him out of the will on that, where I died, daughters get to split the house 3 ways now. I know this doesn't have any legal binding in court, but if the daughters are good people, they will say, Kevin will, give you a quarter share of the house as mother wished. Well, they're not going to say that because they're saying she's mentally incompetent here, which mentally disabled. So, which she isn't. It's a crock of crap. It's from greedy. This is why she despised her daughters, because of what they're doing now. In breaking a deathbed oath to Joan would never. She wouldn't even break a promise unless there was something like a broken leg or something to keep her from doing something. So yeah, Joan was ashamed of her daughters. But Kevin, she never said Kevin did anything bad. She never said Kevin borrowed money and didn't pay it back, or borrowed money at all, or stole anything from her, or anything like that. But yeah, her daughters cheated her, took money from her, never paid it back. Stole from her. Mr. Sloan said something about locks on the door. Joan, when I met her, I don't know when I first noticed it, but she had a lock on her bedroom door and on her closet. And she said that's because Debbie stole from her. And whenever she left the house, she would lock the door and lock the closet up just in case she got in there. And Debbie had broken into the closet before with a screw, prying the door away from the frame and opening it up. So that's why she put a lock on the... And she suggested I put one on the thing that eventually became the place where I just, would go whenever she was watching something and I wanted to watch something else. Mike, what'd you call it? The Mike Cave. But, and the cat, Joan had told me to put a dummy camera up in the window to deter theft, and Mr. Sloan says it deterred the daughters. I wonder why they would be afraid of a camera at their mother's house. And it was a dummy camera anyway. Joan just said put a cell phone up in the window, and maybe a thief, if they see it, they'll think it's a camera. It's got a cord. It's got a piece of black string hanging down to look like a cord. And Mr. Sloan said it frightened the daughters. I mean, were they worried about stealing? It was pointing towards the buildings. Maybe they were wanting to steal stuff, and they thought that, well, whatever. It's just so strange, the things that Mr. Sloan has come up with. But, yeah, fate bending, that is, I guess, doing good, and it comes back to you. You bend fate. You do good for people. And y'all are doing evil. Y'all are doing bad things. The plaintiffs, Pennie Bowen, Debora Robuck, Windie Bagby, Stuart Sloan. And I think there's seven in total that I have a good federal case against. Excuse me, sorry. I guess that's time for me to go. It's 22 minutes. So here is the video of Joan. This is going to be a long video, I suppose. Me speaking is actually longer than that, but But as far as giving examples of fate bending, no, not really. I guess like I said, me accidentally saving those, well, not accidentally, but saving those calls on a flash drive before I turn Joan's phone in, that it's gonna help me convince a judge or jury how big of a liars the daughters are and how fraudulent they are. So I guess that could be an example, because I'm a good person, and so Joan, I guess, subconsciously told me to save them. But I also wanted to hear her voice. And and I know I talk a lot in the will thing, so but I guess I was rushed to get inside Walmart and do the grocery shopping and get out. Joan didn't like to go in because Windie worked there, and well, she had to, well, I mean, with a shopping cart, she could walk with a shopping cart instead of a walker, but, she still, preferred for me to do all the grunt work in her life, which I didn't mind doing. From the time we were married up until Debbie came full blown back in our lives, we had blitz, and even with Debbie, trying to eat away at our happiness, I knew it was Debbie and not Joan. And so, and after Joan repossessed Debbie's car, Debbie tried to murder her. And Debbie told me, she said, it's to get you out of the house. And, she needed her mama's car. So, Debbie's just they're all bad people. And that's just a fact. So, and, fate will bend their way one day. I'm not going to wish ill upon anyone, but you bring stuff into your life, and I don't think loving Joan should bring any ill into my life. That's it. Please me and make me happy. Okay. What's the day? Today's August 9th. Today is August 9th, 2018.
This is Michael Capps with my beautiful wife, Joan Morris, and this is our living wills, and I'm going to read from this, and she's got a codicil to her regular will. First of all, my living will, if I pass away, everything I've got goes to Joan. Nothing to my family except my wishes that they suffer for all the evil they've done. I'm sorry to say that. I wish I was a better person and could forgive them, but I can't anyway. And my living will is, wait to these. Oh, they got a little dog in the car. They must have been in the car a while. Anyway, I got distracted by this little dog. Looks like Blackie, actually. We might have found his kidnappers. Anyway, he could actually probably get out that window. Or we could pull him through if that's Blackie. Anyway, my living will is I don't want any extraordinary measures taken to keep me alive should I be brain dead, classified as brain dead by a majority of the doctors. If there's no hope, don't keep me alive. Wow, that lady came close to us. This is a bad place to do this because I'm just keep getting distracted. Anyway, my beautiful wife Joan Morris made out a will, and she wants I'll read a couple of pages of it. I, Joan Pope Capps of 1525 Coon Creek Road, Franklin, North Carolina, Macon County, being a sound mind, declare this to be my final last will and testament, and revoke all previous wills and codicils made by me in any form. This last will expresses my wishes without undue influence or duress. I am married and have 3 living daughters at the time of this executing this last will, and she also has a stepson, Kevin, who we're going to include in this. I appoint Michael G. Capps, me, my husband, to be executor of the last will and testament. The executor, Michael G. Capps, predeceases me or is otherwise unable to serve as executor. Then I appoint Pennie Rutledge Bowen, my daughter, as the successor executor. I further intend that the term executor in this last will is synonymous with the term personal representative, executrix, and frictionary. The executor shall be entitled to receive compensation for services performed under this last will. I direct any executor serving hereunder shall not be required to furnish any bond or other security for the faithful performance of his duties as the executor in any jurisdiction whatsoever. If bond is required, he should not be required to furnish any sureties. Article 2, Executor's Power. The executor shall pay my enforceable unsecured debts, expenses of my last illness, funeral expenses, cost of administration, and claims allowed and administration of my estate. This was the first page, page 1, and it's signed and initialed by this beautiful woman here. Last will and testament of Joan Morris Capps. I grant the executor, this is page 2, I grant to the executor the fullest power to deal with any property held by my estate without the prior or subsequential approval of any court, including the period after termination of any trust until finally distributed. No person dealing with the executor shall be required to inquire into the propriety of any of his actions or make inquiry into the application of any funds or other property. The executor shall, however, exercise all power in a fiduciary capacity in the best interest of the estate. I grant to the executor all specific powers as conferred by law. Article 3, Expensive. If the value of my estate is insufficient to fulfill this last will, I give the executor full authority to decrease my bequeath by a proportionate amount. Article 4, Bequeath of property. A. After payment of my debts, expenses, and claims, unless otherwise specifically bequeathed, I give all property and worldly possessions, including jewelry, personal effects, cash, savings accounts, policy benefits, all real and personal property to my husband, Michael G. Capps. My home and property located at 1525 Coon Creek Road in Franklin, North Carolina is bequeathed to Michael G. Capps to occupy and own the rest of his life, but never to be sold. And if Michael G. Capps predeceases my daughters, the aforementioned home and property shall be shared between them or their estates forever, but never to be sold and be shared equally. And you want Kevin...
I want Kevin included in that.
You want Kevin... His last name's Morris? Kevin Morris included in that, and this was page 2. The other one is as Article 5 is taxes. The executor shall pay all estate, inheritance, transfer, legacy, and other similar taxes imposed by any jurisdiction whatsoever by reason of my death. And that's page 2. Page 3 is just witnesses. That's just witnesses. Page 4 is witnesses 2 of some sort. Self-proven affidavit, page 4 or 5. And page 5 is the notary acknowledgement. So that's all of her written will, and she also wants Kevin Morris to have this cooking pot and I guess tripod system. You said how big was it?
It's a 30-gallon.
Cast iron, 30-gallon cast iron cooking pot. It don't look like 30 gallons to me, but I know which one she's talking about. It's in her building, and it belonged to his father, and she wants him to have that. I said I would make sure he got it. I sort of suggested she give it to him before she, passed on in 40 years, but she said that she might use it again. I want to see her pick it up, but I'm gonna see me pick it up. But anyway, that goes to Kevin. I know that Woody was interested in it, but Kevin's got first choice. If Kevin wants to give it to Woody, that'll be fine. But cooking pot belongs to Kevin Morris whenever Joan passes, and I have no problem with that, of course.
Also, a cast iron pot out of a garage. It's a small one.
Okay, there's a cast iron pot on the garage. I'm sure Kevin knows which one she's talking about.
Yeah.
And Kevin gets also a share in the house. It's never to be sold, so Kevin, I'm assuming that would be a 4-way split between the $3 and Kevin, so they would have to use it sort of like a timeshare. I mean, after I pass on. I'm sure they're welcome to stay there while I'm there, but I'm sure they would get sick of my company. But anyway, these are your final wishes, right? And the days?
Yes.
Day's August 9th, 2018. And I need to get into Walmart, so let's get this done and over with. That was good. Oops. I was going to call you, and you said, how are you going to call me? And that was a good question. Okay. Excuse my language. That's someone else speaking. You please me and make me happy. Okay. What's the day? Today's August 9th. Today is August 9th, 2018. This is Michael Capps with my beautiful wife, Joan Morris, and this is our living wills, and I'm going to read from this, and she's got a codicil to her regular will. First of all, my living will, if I pass away, everything I've got goes to Joan. Nothing to my family except my wish is that they suffer for all the evil they've done. I'm sorry to say that. I wish I was a better person and could forgive them, but I can't anyway. And my living will is, wait till these, oh, they got a little dog in the car. They must have been in the car a while. Anyway, I got distracted by this little dog. Looks like Blackie, actually. We might have found his kidnappers. Anyway, he could actually probably get out that window. Or we could pull him through if that's Blackie. Anyway, My living will is I don't want any extraordinary measures taken to keep me alive should I be brain dead, classified as brain dead by a majority of the doctors. If there's no hope, don't keep me alive. Wow, that lady came close to us. This is a bad place to do this because I'm just keep getting distracted. Anyway, my beautiful wife Joan Morris made out a will, and she wants I'll read a couple of pages of it. I, Joan Capps of 1525 Coon Creek Road, Franklin, North Carolina, Macon County, being a sound mind, declare this to be my final last will and testament, revoke all previous wills and cognizance made by me in any form. This last will expresses my wishes without undue influence or duress. I am married and have 3 living daughters at the time of this executing this last will, and she also has a stepson, Kevin, who we're going to include in this. I appoint Michael G. Capps, me, my husband, to be executor of the last will and testament. The executor, Michael G. Capps, predeceases me or is otherwise unable to serve as executor. Then I appoint Pennie Rutledge Bowen, my daughter, as the successor executor. I further intend that the term executor in this last will is synonymous with the term personal representative, executrix, and frictionary. The executor shall be entitled to receive compensation for services performed under this last will. I direct any executor serving hereunder shall not be required to furnish any bond or other security for the faithful performance of his duties as the executor in any jurisdiction whatsoever. If bond is required, he should not be required to furnish any sureties. Article 2, Executor's Power. The executor shall pay my enforceable unsecured debts, expenses of my last illness, funeral expenses, cost of administration, and claims allowed in administration of my estate. This was the first page, page 1, and it's signed and initialed by this beautiful woman here. Last will and testament of Joan Capps. I grant the executor, this is page 2, I grant to the executor the fullest power to deal with any property held by my estate without the prior or subsequential approval of any court, including the period after termination of any trust until finally distributed. No person dealing with the executor shall be required to inquire into the propriety of any of his actions or make inquiry into the application of any funds or other property. The executor shall, however, exercise all power in a fiduciary capacity in the best interest of the estate. I grant to the executor all specific powers as conferred by law. Article 3, Expensive. If the value of my estate is insufficient to fulfill this last will, I give the executor full authority to decrease my bequeath by a proportionate amount. Article 4, Bequeath of property. A. After payment of my debts, expenses, and claims, unless otherwise specifically bequeathed, I give all property and worldly possessions, including jewelry, personal effects, cash, savings, accounts, policy benefits, all real and personal property to my husband, Michael G. Capps. My home and property located at 1525 Coon Creek Road in Franklin, North Carolina is bequeathed to Michael G. Capps to occupy and own the rest of his life, but never to be sold. And if Michael G. Capps predeceases my daughters, the aforementioned home and property shall be shared between them or their estates forever, but never to be sold and be shared equally. And you want Kevin...
I want Kevin included in that.
You want Kevin... His last name is Morris? Kevin Morris included in that, and this was page 2. The other one is as Article 5 is taxes. The executor shall pay all estate, inheritance, transfer, legacy, and other similar taxes imposed by any jurisdiction whatsoever by reason of my death. And that's page 2. Page 3 is just witnesses. That's just witnesses. Page 4 is witnesses 2 of some sort. Self-proven affidavit, page 4 of 5, and page 5 is the notary acknowledgement. So that's all of her written will, and she also wants Kevin Morris to have this cooking pot and I guess tripod system. You said how big was it?
It's a 30-gallon.
Cast iron, 30-gallon cast iron cooking pot. It don't look like 30 gallons to me, but I know which one she's talking about. It's in her building, and it belonged to his father, and she wants him to have that. I said I would make sure he got it. I sort of suggested she give it to him before she, passed on in 40 years, but she said that she might use it again. I want to see her pick it up. but I'm gonna see me pick it up. But anyway, that goes to Kevin. I know that Woody was interested in it, but it's Kevin's got first choice. If Kevin wants to give it to Woody, that'll be fine. But cooking pot belongs to Kevin Morris whenever Joan passes, and I have no problem with that, of course.
Also, a cast iron pot out of the garage. It's a small one.
Okay, there's a cast iron pot on the garage. I'm sure Kevin knows which one she's talking about.
Yeah.
And Kevin gets also a share in the house. It's never to be sold, so Kevin, I'm assuming that would be a four-way split between the three daughters and Kevin, so they would have to use it sort of like a timeshare. I mean, after I pass on. I'm sure they're welcome to stay there while I'm there, but I'm sure they would get sick of my company. But anyway, these are your final wishes, right? In the days?
Yes.
Days August 9th, 2018. And I need to get in Walmart, so let's get this done and over with. That was good. Oops. I was going to call you, and you said, how are you going to call me? And that was a good question. Okay.